So this year, especially with no fans, the home field advantage is really going to be out the window. It's just going to be lining up and playing in empty stadiums. So it's that what's been a big part of the playoffs in the past is home field advantage. I don't think it's going to be an advantage this year. So it's just a matter of getting in.
So that's one interesting way of looking at it. And then there are these numbers. Tom Brady has unquestionably been better this season when Antonio Brown has not been on the field. You see the numbers there, the QBR, the completion percentage, everything else is better. And Brady has 4 touchdowns to 4 picks with AB on the field compared to 24-7 without. And as I bring the crew into the conversation here this morning, again, Neek and D. Wood is here and Louis Riddick, let me share one of the factors in this has been the absence, believe it or not, of Scotty Miller. Scotty Miller had genuinely emerged as the deep threat on this team through the first 7 games of this season. And from the time they brought in Antonio Brown, they've forgotten all about him. He's been targeted only 5 times, while AB has been targeted 29. So I guess I will start with you on this one, Dominique Foxworth. Were the Buccaneers actually better off before they brought in Antonio Brown?
It seems like they absolutely were. The numbers suggested, and I was concerned, and I advised against bringing Antonio Brown because you can't trust him off the field necessarily, and he might cause some other issues for your team. But the fact of the matter is you're not getting the benefit of the high risk of adding someone like AB to your team. So I'm not sure why you have him there. And I remember when they were going after this, we all knew when they were going after AB, we all knew that meant less reps for Scotty Miller. We all laughed because it's like, hey, Scotty Miller looks a lot like those receivers that Tom Brady is comfortable with. However, he doesn't play like them. Scotty Miller, as you mentioned, is the deep threat guy that breaks this offense open, and I'm sure AB is capable of doing those things, but for some reasons it's not coming together. Maybe it's the teams they're playing, but right now I don't think AB is worth the risk of having him on the roster.
To your point, Scotty Miller, before AB got there, in 7 games, 25 catches, over 400 yards, averaging over 15 yards per catch. Louis Riddick, what do you see?
Yeah, look, Scotty Miller has been dealing with some injury, but you're right. Look, he's a guy who had emerged and someone who had become a legit home run hitter for them. And it is disappointing that you have seen his production kind of fall off a cliff. I'm hoping they're able to work him back into it. With AB, look, there's been some shots that really, in football games that he has been playing in, that really have nothing to do with him in terms of them not being able to hit on him, that Tom has just flat out missed them. I think overall, I'm not going to focus too much on the fact that AB is a direct cause of this offense not being as efficient as far as Tom Brady is concerned since he has been there. I'm not going to say it's just him. I'm going to say overall they haven't been executing very well at all. And defensively, you saw what happened to them against Kansas City. They just got taken apart, and they're going to have to adjust some things that way. But they need to get Scotty Miller back going. Tom does need to. He looked bad on the Monday night game that we had down there recently against the Rams, and they overall better start playing better, or they're going to be on the outside looking in.
It's a fascinating way of looking at this as well, and we can spend a little time on it later, with so many of these acquisitions feeling as though they were Brady-driven and some of them not working out so well. Maybe AB is not. Maybe Leonard Fournette has not done much. Damien Woody, what are we seeing there in your old quarterback, Tom Brady and the Buccaneers? Are they ready to bounce back in these final 4 weeks and make a playoff run?
Greeny, it's hard to turn the light switch on at this point in the season. You are what you are at right now. So what we've seen from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is just a disjointed unit. You know, they needed the benefit of an offseason with a new quarterback, all the new players, Tom and a new scheme. But what we've seen is Tom Brady missing receivers. You know, disputes about what system is best. You know, is it Tom's system with New England or this Bruce Arians, system down in Tampa? That's not going to get fixed in December. So I think the Bucs are what they are right now.
Do they come out, Dominic, quickly, do they come out and look like a different team after a bye week? It's a very late bye, the latest that anybody had in the sport. Is that enough time, that time off and self-scouting, to come out and look at least a little bit different offensively?
I don't think so. I think that you are who you are, as D would say, and he called them a light switch team. I think that's right, is they kind of flick it on sometimes and flick it off. So they might have a great game like they did against the Packers, which is really the only NFC contender that they've beaten. And they played other NFC playoff potential teams, and they've lost to them, most embarrassingly, to the Saints. So I don't expect much from this team going forward. I think that this partnership hasn't really been a partnership between Brady and the Bucs. The best thing that you can have in a partnership is a give and a take and someone to control your worst impulses. It doesn't seem like that's happening in Tampa Bay. It feels like Brady kind of gets to make the front office decision. He kind of gets to make the game plan decisions. He's making the decision where you throw the ball. And obviously, I don't know exactly what's happening down there, but Bruce Arians seems really uncomfortable with the way this team is going. And the only person he seems to be pointing a finger at or kind of tilting his head towards is the Hall of Famer, the greatest of all time, Tom Brady.
It's an interesting perspective. It's something I want to come back to a little later in the show because I think there may be more there than meets the eye. In the meantime, to what has been the biggest story of the NFL this week, and that is the benching of Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. Eagles head coach Doug Peterson explaining why he named rookie Jalen Hurts his starter for this weekend after Hurts relieved Wentz in the Eagles' loss to the Packers on Sunday and produced 138 yards of offense. Here's Peterson.
I think Carson Wentz can be an exceptional quarterback in this league, and he's proven that, right? He back in 17, 18, last year. And we got to continue to battle and fight and work with him individually, work with him within the confines of the offense, the structure, and get back to being Carson Wentz. And I can't predict, what's going to happen next week or the last 3 games, but I know this week we can begin that process of beginning to improve and getting better and seeing things a little bit differently.
All right, so I've been waiting all week to get Shefty in on this conversation. Shefty, take us inside what's going on in Philadelphia. What are we hearing about the decision and the future?
Well, listen, there's so much that's uncertain right now. We do know that Jalen Hurts will start at quarterback, but we don't know what Jalen Hurts' future in Philadelphia will be. We don't know what Carson Wentz's future in Philadelphia will be. We don't know what Doug Peterson's future in Philadelphia will be. And I think any time a team struggles, and the Eagles have struggled this year as much as anybody and disappointed as much as any team in football, the pressure always comes back to the head coach and the quarterback, first and foremost. Well, we've seen the quarterback be benched, and we know that there's pressure on Doug Peterson. Now we wait to see the fallout. They want to see if Jalen Hurts can provide some type of spark. They want to see if Carson Wentz can take a mental break and rehab his mind and get back stronger and provide some value later on. There's so much that remains uncertain here in Philadelphia, but they believe that this is the right move to make at this particular moment.
So the one thing we do know, Lewis, is that we will see Jalen Hurts this weekend against a New Orleans defense that has just been annihilating people over the last 5 or 6 weeks. What do you think of that?
Look, this is a tough assignment, man. This is like ice skating uphill for Jalen Hurts. I'm just telling you. Look, this Saints defense is ferocious. They don't mess around. They have got absolute hunters and dogs at all 3 levels of this defense. They're deep and they're fast on the defensive line. They're deep and they're fast at linebacker. They got the best set of man coverage players in the secondary of any team in the NFL. And Jalen Hurts is saying, I get to take over and ignite the offense against these guys. Okay. Well, I'll tell you this. Look, and I wish him well. Look, because you love Jalen Hurts' story. Everybody loves his story. Everybody loves what he's overcome. And Doug needs to do this. He has to do something. He's fighting for his job. Look, as Adam alluded to, right or wrong, people are going to point to him and go, well, if somebody has to go, it's going to be you, and it's probably going to be the quarterback, although we all know this. This is an organizational fail. This team has not been set up right. There have been numerous personnel missteps. And I'll tell you this, barring something unforeseen, this game can get ugly. I would be shocked if it doesn't, but I anticipate this getting ugly.
By getting ugly, you mean you think the Saints could make this a very long day for Jalen and the Eagles?
Absolutely. He could really be in a situation where he is under siege over and over and over again.
Okay, so we'll bookmark that and see. Now, Damien Woody, saving the best for last. I have to give you all the credit in the world. Your bold prediction on this program before the season was that Jalen Hurts would start games for the Eagles. So since you can see the future, tell us how this is going to play out. What happens with Jalen Hurts here this weekend and going forward?
Well, listen, Granny, I think Lewis is right. I think this could get embarrassing for the Philadelphia Eagles. You're talking about a Saints team, particularly on defense. I mean, these guys are flying around, splattering every opponent that they face. This is going to be a huge challenge for Jalen Hurts. And I just hope that Doug Peterson, doesn't take this thing week to week. It wouldn't be fair to Jalen Hurts to say, oh, well, we're going to see what you do this week against arguably the best team in the National Football League in the New Orleans Saints, particularly on defense. So this is going to be a tall test, and it could get ugly ugly for Philadelphia this week.
Okay, so no one sounds like they have an enormous amount of confidence in the Eagles' chances of working their way back into the playoff mix this weekend. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, Shefty, there's a bunch of other stuff out there.